the best. But just to like update you guys on what's happening right now, we split everyone up into mentors, and MG is going to talk with them a little bit about what's going to happen today, and she also has some things that she has to check in with them about. We have to get a little bit more information from them. And then here we're just going to do a little bit of an icebreaker and just kind of go over, what the next couple weeks look like. Make sure that we're getting some of those like tasks done that we've been working on. So just to update everyone, all the resumes should be done at this point. I know there's a couple people that haven't gotten them to us. I don't have that list in front of me right now. So if you haven't gotten them in yet, you know who you are, and we need to do that. It doesn't look like Tegan is on the call, but I believe Tegan and then Casey and Caleb Meyer, we're still waiting on you guys for your image release forms. So when you get a chance, really as soon as you can almost, if you could get those to us, that would be amazing. And then at this point, hey, John or Michael, do you want to get the email that Andrew Hardy just asked for?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So at this point, for the Python things that we've been doing, most people should be, getting done with, module 4. We've given you guys several weeks. Is there anyone that has been struggling with those at all? Or I guess if you guys just want to like react or like speak out loud, how many people have gotten done with module 4 and the Python things we've been doing? Dylan. Anyone else? Have you guys gotten through the 4th module? Maybe. Almost. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew Hardy, for sharing that with us. Yeah, I know those take a long time, especially some of those later ones, but just keep plugging away. And if you need help, we've been struggling to set up office hours during the week, but we have a better system for scheduling those office hours for us. So hopefully, if you guys just want to pop in on some of those office hours, we will have them available for you all to hop in on, and we will update you guys more on that this weekend, because we're going to be doing lots of work, the AXP team and the AXP leads, because we have a proposal to kind of finish up in the next couple of weeks. And just to keep everyone updated, I know we have talked about the high altitude balloons. I believe not next week, but the week after that, if I have my dates right, that's when we're going to kind of introduce the high altitude balloons that you guys will get to work on in the spring. Kind of just a brief introduction. And then there's going to be 2 weeks where we're not really going to have meetings, because it just so happens that it lands on like the day after Christmas and then on New Year's Day. So we're just going to try and do that. And John, it looks like Taylor.
Oh yeah, I can put Taylor in the breakout room. Good morning,
awesome.
Taylor.
Hey guys, sorry for running late.
Oh,
no,
that's all good. We understand how it goes. But yeah, so we won't have those 2 meetings, like those 2 days that it falls on, but we will be kind of having some assignments and some ideas and brainstorming and team forming for you guys to be doing over those 2 weeks. Because ideally, we'd like maybe a team of like 2 or 3 people for every one of the payloads for the high altitude balloon that you guys will get to work on. So we're not going to have like everyone work on one payload, because that would be, people won't be able to get that hands-on experience and take ownership of those individual payloads. I don't know. Does that sound, I don't know, decent to you guys? I know I was kind of breezing through that off the top of my head, but do you want me to repeat anything or explain things further? Yeah. So the thing is, we really don't know how long MJ is going to, talk to some of the mentors right now. So I just kind of want to ask, does anyone have any kind of ideas on what people could study for their high altitude balloon payload? All right. And it looks like Whitney joined. I'm not super familiar with the name, but I think you might be one of the mentors, right? Potentially. All right, we got that.
Wait, who's
I don't know.
Whitney?
I think it was Elijah's.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Yeah, good. I almost assigned
That's all good.
Elijah to the breakout room. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas of what you could study from one of those how to do balloon payloads?
Like, what kind of stuff can you find? Like, with a high altitude balloon, you kind of have an interesting opportunity to study things that are really high up in the atmosphere as opposed to just ground level. So, can you guys come up with any ideas for stuff that you might be able to find up there where you couldn't easily study down here?
I don't know. Does anyone know the temperature in space or like low space? Maybe, maybe not. That's something we could look at. Maybe like the pressure could also be something. I don't know. Those are some things we had on our payload, but we'll have to go and see what you guys are interested in. The other thing that we kind of want to talk about here, we're planning on talking about it at the end, but since we have some time now, I don't know if you guys saw the message that got sent out last night about the Big Red Sat leads that we're looking into. So it's just a pretty quick Google form, some answers that you have to fill in. It doesn't take too long. So if you're interested in it being any one of the leads, please fill that out. And we might be, hosting, like a short interview with you during the week, just for some experience interviewing for the most part, or something like that. And the Big Red Sat president, that will be a vote that happens, but no. Do you guys know exactly like what some of those leads positions would do? I know there's a really brief description, but
Yeah, any questions about that?
yeah, Robert, we can do that. So we have team leads for each one of the sub-teams, the mechanical sub-team, electrical sub-team, and the special systems sub-team. And then we also have a SATCOM liaison, which would be going kind of with the electrical team lead, but mainly to communicate with, the Florida and North Carolina teams, and then the team president. So the team president's role would kind of be to work with each one of the team leads. So if one of the team leads, maybe has to communicate with one of the other team leads to coordinate some testing or something like that, or maybe, one piece of this project needs to be done before the next piece. We kind of want that communication to go through the president of the Big Red Sat team. And there definitely can be, communication between the AXP team leads as well, because we're going to be helping you guys out along the way. But there's going to be like communication up to the president, and then the president's going to have some other duties like maybe they're one of the people who gets to go talk about, the entire CubeSat every time we go and do like a short little presentation to someone who's interested in giving us money, something like that. So maybe a little bit more apparent role, I guess. And then each one of the team leads for like the sub teams are going to be working on those systems just like everyone else on that sub team, but helping manage deadlines and tasks, making sure that everyone has something to do, and you're kind of that person responsible for that sub team. So if someone has nothing to do, they can come talk to you, or if they have any questions, they can talk to you. And if you don't know, you can then talk to one of the AXP team leads, or maybe we'll have to, send some emails and all of that. Is that detail kind of helpful? I'm not sure. All right. Awesome. And Tegan, I see that you're here now. One thing that we said earlier, there's an image release form, and there's just a couple people that haven't gotten that in. I think I sent you a message on Slack yesterday. It'd be awesome if you get that in like at the end of today or something like that. All right. Thank you, Tegan.
Joel, MJ Switch is going to be done in just a couple minutes.
Okay, a couple minutes?
Like 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay.
So 2 minutes, ask all the questions you have about the high-altitude balloons or the rolls or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we will be introducing like the high altitude balloons more later. But any questions on the rolls? Because this is going to be the only time we have, most likely, to talk about those rolls, unless we get done a little early.
Gavin, do you have a question?
This is for the high altitude balloons.
Okay.
Would we be launching them as like part of a competition or like event, or no?
So most likely it would be with the professor out of Omaha that we launched before. So it wouldn't really be like a competition, but there would probably be other college classes launching their balloons at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll actually be, if we do launch with them, it'll actually be graduate students, people that have graduated college and are now getting their master's or PhD in education. So some really cool people, some really cool payloads that you guys might get to hear more about. I have no idea. They haven't started that, but they're designing payloads, but I'm sure that they're going to come up with some really cool things. But we might make it sort of a competition, but if we did, it would be like all internal to this team. So hopefully, like we're going to kind of go through the design process with those, and like you're going to lay out like what you want to accomplish, how you're going to accomplish it, and like then really dive into technical depth. And then at the end, maybe we'll have like kind of a wrap-up presentation saying, this is the data we got back, this is what it means, this is what we learned. And maybe if you're trying to like answer a question like, are clouds real? Something like that. You can like cohesively say like, yes, clouds exist, or maybe we still cannot prove if clouds exist. We need to do further testing, and this is what it might look like. I don't know. That could be fun. There's some really like neat payloads that you could have, like asking and proving if clouds exist, or something like that. So think about that if you can. Well, I know we've kind of been talking at you for the most part the last 20 minutes, but hopefully MG is going to wrap up soon, and then we'll get some questions asked of all of you guys about certain pieces of the CubeSat, and hopefully we can ask them some questions as well on what we might want to change in order to make the design better. are some of the topics we have in there? I don't know. Has anyone put their Christmas tree up yet? If you put Christmas trees up? Wow. It's a lot of head nods. My family never puts theirs up until like the 21st or the 22nd of December.
Mine does the day after Thanksgiving every year.
Mhm.
Uh,
I just like the Christmas music.
John's mad.
I wasn't up too early as well.
Mhm. Well, apparently when my parents were kids, they would always go out and get a Christmas tree like the 24th, like Christmas Eve. That's what they
Go
They
out
did.
and get one, like a new one every year?
Mhm.
Oh, I guess
Like-
they probably use a live tree, huh?
Yeah. Wait, do you out of all you guys, is it a live Christmas tree or is it a fake one?
I've never seen a live one in person. Joel seizes for a moment.
I know Tegan like seized as well.
I've just never encountered a real one. In fact, I didn't know people actually got real trees until like not that long ago. I thought that was just like a thing from the 80s that people did.
Yeah, they do.
Like a thing that you do in like a Christmas story or whatever. Like not real, you know?
Mhm.
Looks like Casey is a live one too.
He's dying already. I just never knew it was a thing that people actually did. It's odd to me.
Mhm.
But the tree symbolizes your everlasting bond with God. And so if it's not a living tree, then you're basically saying you don't have a
I mean, you said
I don't know,
everlasting.
that just
You know what
seems
lasts longer
sad.
than tree? Plastic.
Yeah, but it's like it's alive and it's growing and it's something that God created. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know. That just seems kind of sad to me because like
They make a mess.
yeah, it dies, but it's not. They do make a mess, but it's memorable. It's you have that experience for the rest of your life. You get a fake tree, just get it out of a box.
But there's
There's no
still
social
messy-
interaction
you
with
go-
other people.
You shove it in its
It's
big
just-
tree bag,
I
you
don't
put
know.
it
I
back in
think
the basement for a year, and you come get it 11 months later. You put it back in the
That's
dark
so
hole from whence it
sad.
came.
the tree dying is like the most memorable part, Mikey. That's like the spirit of Christmas dying.
Yeah, you know the part where we breach the backyard and light on fire? That's
Or you
the-
just throw it in the compost pile. That's the best part.
Oh,
But it's just
That's
the
funny 'cause my
symbol.
family had a compost pile.
Is it like it forces you to interact with other people and kind of have that moment of bonding, and I think that that's kind of something that's beautiful in and of itself. I mean, you may get sap all over your hands and you'd be a pain, but it's about the experience and the interaction that you get from it.
That's
And
fair.
it's just I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just think that it kind of
Gavin, that's
Takes
good.
me.
It's a good move.
absolutely, Gavin.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
absolutely.
So you cut up the tree. Do you like what my family has always done is they leave it out or in the house way too long until like Easter because they were just lazy and don't want to get rid of it. I think that's ridiculous personally. But it gets super dry and then if you light it on fire, it just like poof because all the pine needles just light up.
Yeah, Kevin, you use the needles as well.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Looks like we have everyone joining us again. All right.
Okay, so if everyone is okay, I think we're gonna go pretty much into the Q&A portion of today, which we anticipate taking up almost the entire meeting. But to, I guess, complete Karen's sentence before we all got pulled out is that everybody better be doing their homework, mentors included. Okay. So if any of our mentor panel wants to start, I know that we got quite a few emails, or in quite a few of your emails, there was just like general questions about certain NASA requirements and stuff like that. So we would love to try to answer them now.
Also, we'd love for you kids on the Bigger Ed Set team to answer as many of these as possible.
I guess one thing I wanted to ask, just to get some better idea on like of what this presentation's for. Are you guys presenting to a panel of people, or is this being presented to us? What's the audience this is for? And how is it being evaluated?
Sorry. So we did an initial PDR back in October, and the other teams that we were working with, the ones out of Florida and North Carolina, were kind of working under the assumption that that was going to cover the feasibility and merit review, and kind of just on our own reviewing like the request for proposal requirements, we decided that that PDR wasn't going to cover what we needed to have for like an actual feasibility and merit review. And like Karen said, the review takes up like 60% of our grade basically for the proposal. So we wanted to cover all of our bases for sure. So basically you guys are our panel of reviewers. And so by sending out the PDR, that's kind of what this is supposed to be.
Would it help if we project the PDR and then just kind of side by side, give the opportunity for questions?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. And then that way it'll help prompt it and keep it organized, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
1 second.
While you're pulling that up, one thing that I noticed that I think I see a lot in NASA design reviews are success exit criteria. I say /exit criteria. And if you guys need help defining that for this PDR, I think we as your board could be really helpful in that. Because then I guess if you didn't get those metrics, right, if you can define them for the review board that you're presenting to ahead of time and say, hey, these are all the things that we were trying to accomplish here, it kind of helps them measure, expectations versus reality.
Right, yeah.
So kind of our overall mission. I'm going to assume this is mostly from the PDR, and then our team members, beautiful smiley faces.
Actually, you have what looks like your middle school team.
Yeah.
Do you have any of your college team in your slide?
Yeah. So
I agree.
During the PDR, all of the presenters were the middle school students, middle school and high school students. And so we only showed pretty much the people who were presenting on these slides just because there are quite a few of us. And we didn't want to take up too much time kind of like going through each individual person, because I believe Elsa on that day kind of like read through all the slides. So yeah, that was the reason that was a little bit shorter. And then our mission statement, I think all of you know this pretty well.
Question on the mission statement is this your team mission statement or the like CubeSat mission statement, or what is its purpose or background?
So this is kind of the basically like mission statement for this particular proposal. And I guess first instinct, sorry, go ahead.
I guess where I'm just going with this question is to make sure that you have an understanding of what the RFP is looking for, because, well, since I went through the process, I remember that they asked for a mission statement, and a lot of that, of what my team did, was centered around our team's mission, not necessarily the mission of the CubeSat. So as long as you have an understanding of what needs to get done, and if that's it, then awesome.
I actually, Rachel, I like your comment, and I think, sorry, I moved things, so I am looking at you guys in this. We are stressing that we're doing education as far as the strategic plan. And so I think we probably want to adapt our mission statement to actually reflect that we are educating ourselves through this perovskite, that we are developing ourselves to be the future of NASA or aerospace. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. John, Joel, MJ, Michael? So I think we want to just adjust that because yeah, we want to make this stuff happen, but we actually want to, the primary thing is to become NASA's future employees potentially, or aerospace employees.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely include that in there then.
And then so this is, I guess, more to what you were talking about, some like our personal missions and then objectives and stuff. And also I'm just going to say to kind of like the Big Red Sack kids, my first instinct is going to be to answer these questions. So I want you guys to try to jump in so that it's not just me talking.
Okay. Do you want to go through it slide by slide, or do you want to go through it as the merit and feasibility review matrix? Or do
I
one
have
to
some
another?
questions and comments on that matrix itself, and perhaps it would help to ground ourselves in what it is that we're trying to grade you on. So it might hurt that matrix, but up to you entirely.
I think that'd be a good approach if we go by the matrix.
Okay.
And while you're bringing that up, just also from my experience working with that matrix, and as you may have seen in my comments on it, some of the items in that matrix are really intended, as I interpreted it, as my team, was intended to be completed by the team to say, you know, you're taking a look at your process and yourselves and saying, yes, we have the right approvers, we have the right things that they're grading against, more so than having the approvers go through that list and I guess the reviewers and complete that, which there's certainly plenty of valuable things in that matrix that the reviewers can look at. But just another note of make sure you're understanding what NASA's trying to get at in their RFP.
I'd piggyback on that one and say I was, and not being someone who has not gone through that review process before, the matrix, I was a little confused at some of the questions. It seemed like, yeah, exactly that this was some of the questions were meant for you guys to fill out versus the mentors.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think some of what like the NASA benefits were reviewed is important, but yeah, you guys aren't going to be saying, yes, we were the best. Even though you are, we're going to say that.
Yeah, some of the things were like comparisons to other groups, I believe, in some way, and I did not have anything else to compare you guys to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will put smiley faces on everything and hope that is enough. But yeah, the order of operations, maybe. You know, I think some of these questions pertain to what we're doing at the moment, the review itself. So I assume that, you know, it probably would have been good to go through this review with you guys first to see and address all the boxes in this merit and feasibility review, and then go and fill it out. But I think this is fine. I think we'll come up with the same outcome. It's just we have to revisit some of these boxes and also be mindful and clear on what we want to get out of them or what NASA wants to get out of them.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. Next time we'll check before we have a review.
That's okay.
What might be valuable now with all of the mentors present is to go through that matrix and take a look at the ones that, or the criteria that aren't necessarily like how great are your approvers, but taking a look at, I forget what they all were, but there are some that were definitely based on the merit of the mission. And we can have a discussion about your progress so far and relate that back to the slides if that helps things.
I think that's a great idea.
I think that's a good way to approach it.
Take it from the top.
Yeah.
And also if the team has any questions, because I know I sent a ton of comments. I don't know if you even got a chance to look at them yet, but I think that I posed any questions in there that I had, so I don't necessarily have anything specific to cover today, but I'm happy to discuss anything that the team wants to cover.
We did, talking about it last night, one thing that we wanted to highlight was the orbital flight opportunity is necessary or advantageous for providing benefits to NASA. We got quite a wide range of responses to that one. Rachel, you put a 1, and then Justin 3, Beth 5, Ryan 4. So I guess we were hoping to hear each of your thoughts on that particular topic.
Well, I can go first if nobody else, but somebody else.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Okay,
I'll call on Rachel first.
Okay, I rated that whatever, fair, poor, whatever it wasn't actually a good score. I acknowledge that. My theory behind grading that one was to take a look at the criticality of having a flight in order to prove out your system and to show that your technology demonstration works, which if you're going to be testing your solar cells, that is not something that outright needs to be tested in orbit necessarily until you have your TRL high enough to be able to get to that point. So I didn't feel that it was necessarily at least demonstrated in the presentation. I'm happy to have that discussion, say, you know, this is what the team thinks of the TRL of this system as a whole and why it needs to be a flight as opposed to other means of testing first. But I did not feel that it was absolutely critical to have a flight for this system as of this time.
Mm-hmm. And then if we could, I guess, if it's okay with John and Joel, if we could call on, I think, Elsa to kind of respond to that question. Is that okay?
No, sorry. Looking at, I think it was Katie that talked about the TRL rating.
Okay. Katie?
Do you want to let each of the reviewers actually comment on that topic and then get the feedback from the students?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Am I muted? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the other end. You know, I said it's pretty appropriate to have a space launch, you know, for this particular application, just because, you know, you want to essentially test as you fly. So even though you can test the efficiency and, you know, have the comparisons on land, you're not going to be flying solar panels and, you know, testing these items on land. The CubeSat's not going to stay in atmosphere. It's going to be in space. And so I think it was pretty appropriate to try to get it out into space as soon as possible, just to make sure that the feasibility of the payload itself is checked as early on as you can.
I would echo that as well. As was stated in the presentation, it being at a TRL level of 5, where it's demonstrated in a laboratory environment. However, jumping up to a TRL level of 6, where you've actually operated in the relevant environment and proven its efficacy and reliability there. I think that's important for adoption by other missions, and I don't see NASA implementing it on any mission where, you know, solar power is critical without being at a TRL level of 6. So I think that's a critical step, and that's something we run into a lot in my area of in-space assembly is how do we get to TRL level 6 and prove to people that these systems will do what they need in the relevant environment. And that's a huge jump.
I want to jump in here really quick too. So I agree about you know, having some flight heritage before, like the purpose of wanting to do this is you want to give some flight heritage to this hardware before you send it out. But I guess I think maybe this will go more into is with what Rachel was talking about is, you know, it depends on, I think it depends on what you guys are doing with your solar cell. So if it's you're doing the manufacturing where you're manufacturing your own solar cell, then there's gonna be a lot of testing that you need to prove first, which I think goes to what Rachel's talking about, is that there's a lot of lab testing that would need to be done. Now, if you guys can acquire a off-the-shelf one or one that's already been made and has a bunch of lab testing behind it, then I think that kind of answers Rachel's question about showing, you know, all this testing that's already been done on the ground, and then maybe adding to the flight heritage, you know, proving that it works in the environment that it's supposed to. So I think it's a little dependent on what you guys end up having to do when it comes to the cell.
I think answering some of these questions, if you guys can put up, what would answer some of these questions that we have is putting up here what made it TRL 5. I mean, you guys state it's TRL 5, but if you can point to this is why it's TRL 5, these are the things that were done to it, I think that helped that add to the flight heritage.
Right.
Heritage it's coming from. And then also, you know, maybe a little more specifics on what exactly I know the flight you have to make it TRL 6, but what exactly is it about your test that you say makes it hit that TRL 6 threshold versus just saying flight test?
Yeah.
Katie, do you wanna?
Yeah, should I go in and switch some stuff, do a little research on that? Like
No.
what made it a TL? I don't understand what is being asked.
Basically, like, why did we say it was TRL 5, and then why did we say it's going to be TRL 6?
Oh, okay. So the reason we thought that it was TLR 5 was because it's been tested on the ground before, and I believe and it's had some research behind it, and so it hasn't been tested in a relevant environment, but it has been tested, so that's what makes it a TLR 5. What would make it a TLR 6 would it would be testing it in a relevant environment, which is space, so we could send it up to space and test the already tested equipment in a relevant environment. So that's what would up it a level, I think, is what was being asked.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's good to have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to wonder if you are making your own cells or if you're buying them. I think as Ryan was getting at.
I think that makes a big difference. If you're making your own, then technically your TRL is a lot lower because you haven't proven a lot of stuff on the ground. It puts more work for you guys to prove the TRL of what you've made versus if you're buying something from someone, they've already proven the TRL through their testing.
And
so
even
our
the
current
keeps it as a system, and that TRL for the system.
Our current plan as of now is to buy them. So it would be a TLR of 5 in that case.
One question I have about that is, like, are you referring to the TRL, Ryan, of the specific solar panels that we're using, or just a perovskite technology in general? Because if we make them, like, like it'd be a lot more work for us, but the end product would be the same thing as what we'd buy. So why wouldn't the TRL that's applied to the ones we would buy, why doesn't that apply to what we would manufacture?
You have to prove that the ones that you manufacture are equivalent to the ones you buy.
Right.
That would be more testing. You guys would have to actually demonstrate that they are the same. You can't make it and then say they're the same. You got to demonstrate it.
Okay.
I think what could help get to the root of those questions is describing what exactly you're going to measure in your flight, right? So you say, oh, we're going to fly this, but highlighting like these are the critical bits of data that we're going to get back from flight, right? That are going to inform our project. Will help highlight for the team that you're not in solar cell manufacturing business, you're in subsystem readiness or system readiness, right? You guys are trying to measure how efficient these are. And if that's what you're trying to measure, right? You're trying to show like, oh, look, these actually work in space and don't degrade in a radiated environment and all of that stuff. So if you highlight that, people aren't going to say, well, what are your processes for manufacturing the solar cells? They'll understand that that's not your focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback. And I think it goes back to your success exit criteria that we need to say, these are the things when the flight is accomplished, these are the 3 or 4 things or 2 to 4 things that if these things occur, we will call it a success.
Yeah.
Okay, if we are going to move on to the next topic, I think the next one we wanted to hit was the electrical subsystems. That was probably our lowest rated overall.
I'm sorry, MJ, can I jump in? But I have what you sent. And so I'm actually looking in the matrix in order. And the first thing was the benefits were reviewed as a part of the merit review, and we kind of skipped that. Was there any issue or concern with that?
So we last night compiled all of the kind of reviewers into like a 1 to 5 rating and then did an average. And I can send you that.
Yeah, that would be very helpful because
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want us to talk about the electrical subsystem?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think
okay,
that was...
Okay. Well, my general comment for talking through it and what it is there wasn't like a general overview for it. I see an overview slide, but it just talks about the perovskite crystals and the solution to reading their output, when I think that area should cover the full systems of the CubeSat before it gets to what the test articles will be looking like and how they're going to be tested, or at least how they're going to be measured. So a schematic of, this is your CPU, this is the ammeter and the voltometer over here, and you kind of have that at the bottom, but it's just for the perovskite panel, and I think it needs to be expanded to the entire electrical subsystem, and then you need to dip into all of those. And then let's see, just another general comment is that I see there's the fast bus that is being discussed, that could probably have additional information. And I would also note that the structure for that, talking about the aluminum type, does not match what's talked about in the mechanical subsystem aluminum type. There's an aluminum 6061, and then there's, in the previous section, there's actually aluminum 7075 talked about. So some consistency to ensure. Also, you know, whether or not that belongs in the electrical subsystem design is maybe more of my general comment.
I wanted to ask, I guess, in response to Matt, your comments, and this is maybe also kind of, I'm not telling people this, but maybe this is open to the other mentors, is maybe just keep it, is, I'm not sure how far stuff should be, I guess, for, I mean, it seems like this is a very conceptual level, so understand that, you know, there's not a lot of like having all the schematics all figured out yet, and a lot of that idea. So I guess I don't want you guys to have like to go too deep into this because it's supposed to be a really high level concept review. It is what I'm thinking on for this review. I'm not sure what the other mentors who are evaluating this for your guys' review where this should be.
Oh yes, I agree. You know, I don't want you guys to go too deep on at least this first slide on what the overall subsystem is, but definitely labeling that your major components, and that there will be CPU, there will be some sort of sensor suite, there will be the test articles, you know, main things right there. Then whatever detail you know already that can be fixed.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And to your point, Ryan, I also agree that this is not the time to get into the too nitty-gritty details. What I do like to see at a PDR kind of a level, at least from my industry perspective, is to ensure that the team has a good grasp of what they don't know, or at least to have a system level, you know, this is what we're planning on doing. Here's all the TBDs, here's all the things that are likely to change, but at least to have that understanding of, you know, this is the scope of the work that we're trying to accomplish, and this is our plan for getting there.
Yeah, laying that out would be fantastic. And then having it in a structured way. It's something you could certainly put on the block diagram listing your subsystems.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think we had something similar to that in a version of this presentation, but when we went to make updates, I think that got deleted and never re-added in, which is a mistake. Of course, going forward, we'll make sure and have at least the high-level overview at the beginning and kind of have a little bit more organization and lay things out.
Are there any questions that you mentors have about the electrical subsystems that we can answer for you?
I had a question about what you get, maybe more specific about what your hardware you're using. You talk about having a Raspberry Pi emulator for on a Red Howard FPGA. Is this a solution that's like used by others? Is this something you guys would get? Like you're not, I guess I'm trying to figure out how ready to go this is versus something that you guys are gonna have to actually like build your own emulator on an FPGA or programming on an FPGA.
So some of the other teams, so at least the Florida team that we have been working with, that's what they've used in the past, and we haven't specifically found some of that information yet because Near Space Launch, the company that makes the FastBus, hasn't been the most foregoing and upfront with that information. But from talking with Kevin, the PI for the Florida team and their previous CubeSats, I believe that's something that, if not is included, is easy to obtain through Near Space Launch.
Okay, so is it, I guess, have you guys seen it be used with other, on other projects at maybe an undergrad level at least? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's why I just want to make sure. Because FPGAs can become a rabbit hole. So I just make sure you guys are diligent about it. Okay.
Also, you don't want other unproven technologies or mystery boxes to pollute or cloud what the goals of your actual experiment are.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't, want an unknown variable from the FPGA or your control systems or your pointing systems or something like that to impact or add uncertainty to your measurements for your solar cells.
Certainly, that makes a lot of sense. Like we want to have the heritage in every piece that we can, except for the piece that we're actually testing, right?
Yep. You want everything else to be well known and as standardized and reliable as possible. And then, your variable system can be more easily characterized.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess I can wait if we want to wait to get to risks, but I think this is true across all of your systems, but since we're talking about electrical, right? And this kind of piggybacks on Rachel's comment that it's okay to have TBDs so long as you can define what you're going to do about them. But like on your risk matrix, right, your top risk is unexpected software failure. So that's kind of a poorly defined risk in my mind, right? Like there is risk that anything will fail in any time. That's space hardware. And so it's good that you guys understand that. But I would encourage you to try to really hone in on the bits that you don't necessarily have a full understanding of, right? So I think that this Raspberry Pi coding and whether it's FPGA, right? Has anybody on your team ever done that before, right? That's like kind of that seems kind of like a new thing. And so saying risk of like proper code implementation for communication bus, that's a risk. And so I think I would encourage you guys to be a little bit more precise in your risk identification. And it's okay if there's a lot, but include mitigation plans. Even if it's a high level, like this is the first stab we're going to take at solving this. It would show that you understand your design and your approach to building this project a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to include mitigation plans, especially.
Any other questions? Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, I got one. On the note of risk planning and risk analysis, just a thought I had was it might be really helpful for the team to come up with your risks and put them in a list and rank them as you started doing, really flesh them out, and then draft some mitigation plans to then review those risks with the mentors. Just thinking about my own experience and how I get my own mentors in and my own SMEs or subject matter experts together to evaluate risks, because they're the ones that have all the experience to say, well, this is actually likely to happen, or this is not, or have you thought about this or that, that the risks are a really great time to review all of that and to get a really good assessment of where the program is at or where your project is at. So something to consider.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely happy to go over risks on a case-by-case basis with you guys as they're better defined.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be helpful. Let's see what's next on the matrix to go over.
Back to risk assessments. Rachel, what do you think we need? How detailed do you think we need to include that in the proposal?
For the proposal, I'd have to review what NASA has in their RFP. I haven't looked at it in so long. The risks, I think, are a great place to demonstrate to NASA that you have a good understanding of what you're trying to accomplish and all of the moving pieces. So I think that it can only help you to have additional detail without going too crazy. You don't want to spend all day just on your risks, but I think that it's a good place to demonstrate that understanding.
Yeah, so the proposal, a lot of that, they're going to be going through the matrix, parts of the matrix. And so I think what we may have to look at is capturing that we've done, that the comment was made, and then what we've done in response to that may end up, we may not be able to fit all of that matrix in with a 10-page limit.
Definitely, and tough fitting that 10-page limit is really tough. And so if even you can say, we went through this risk matrix in detail with our mentors, that's great in itself.
Yeah, what's going into your presentation should just be the tip of the iceberg of what you did, of course. I might be able to come up with some helpful Excel files that kind of are risk tracking documents that could be used and just at least mentioned for the exercise. But yeah,
that'd be great.
Stuff that we've used at Langley.
Okay. So the next thing I think is perovskite cell manufacturing or sourcing and encapsulation.
So,
I guess. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So basically, the two ideas that we're dealing with right now for perovskite cell sourcing is we're trying to reach out to companies to see if they are willing to sponsor us, basically, and just give us either cells that they've manufactured or like prototypes that they're working on, like assuming that they can prove the technology readiness level and all the testing that they've done on their end, or just buying something. Obviously, in terms of a cost-effective standpoint, we would rather have them, be given to us. But we wanted to hear your thoughts on which avenue we should go.
I mean, trying to get them, trying to get a sponsor and definitely trying to sell. I think the big selling point that you guys have is advertising this as a free opportunity to give their hardware some flight heritage. I think that's very valuable, and that should be worth the cost to them of providing some free cells for testing. So that should be the first and foremost way that you guys do it. And then, if you guys have to go about funding or finding a way to buy them, that's the next best option. I don't think, though, that I think based on what we talked about before about actually making your own is the best idea, because it adds a lot of more work on you guys, not just by making them, but then also having to prove through testing that they're the same. I think that's a lot harder to do for you guys, because these companies might, have a partner through some aerospace testing facilities and actually be able to do stuff with like thermal vacuums and stuff that you guys just don't have. So it'd be a lot harder on your guys' side to do that. So best option is trying to get some free ones from somebody, for sure.
Yeah, anytime you can get a sponsor and somebody to donate something, that's golden. Go for it. Get those sponsors, because it's hard to get people to give money, as I found. And if you can get a company that's on board with giving you things, that's just as good, if not better, because then you don't have to go through the process of buying it. And you can start to build that relationship with that sponsor, that supplier, and that can lead to other benefits for your team.
Yeah, we're looking into reaching out right now to companies.
A long list. Is there anything that I guess do you think that we should ask about specifically? Like for basically the company proving their qualifications that their cells to us, we're asking about efficiency, tests, and 2 other things that I can't remember.
The size and the encapsulation.
Yeah.
When you guys, I mean, when you guys get this, you should try to get some data sheet or something. They should have a bunch of this information already. Now, maybe what might be a little harder is they might find some of this information to be more proprietary to what they have, but that would just have to be worked out when you guys are figuring out your agreement.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first thing that you guys, when you reach out to these companies, the first things you should advertise is like, we're a free launch opportunity for your guys' hardware.
As far as getting the hardware and deciding what to ask them when you get it, that would be part of understanding what your success criteria, what you want in this test. Do you have a certain efficiency level that you need from it, or a certain amount of power that need to be generated from them? Is there some other aspect about these solar panels that you need to have in your test? Have that clearly understood, so when you go and ask them for these things, you can make sure you get the thing you need. Because it's not going to help you if they gave you perovskite, but there's something different about how they put it together that wasn't quite what you needed, and it ends up being worthless for your project. So making sure you have that stuff well understood would be very, very good.
Certainly, yeah.
And then the next thing I was hoping to ask about is the encapsulation of the cells. So the only other time these have been tested in space was a sounding rocket from a team in Germany. And I think they were only in space for like 7 minutes. It was a very short flight.
Right.
And so they put the cells on their sounding rocket like hours before the launch. We do not have that option. Our CubeSat has to stay in a clean room for 90 days. And so we are going to have to figure out some sort of encapsulation. And we wanted to ask basically about that. Any advice, any questions? Yeah.
I mean, I think you have you have those criteria defined already, right? You understand that they kind of have a short shelf life. And so being able to describe that to anybody you're trying to procure these from, that's, number one. And they'll tell you whether they can support that or not, right? Or how you might be able to solve that problem.
Yeah, we have that on the list of questions to ask them about. And I guess just MJ, I'm not sure if we talked about this like as a team or if it was just the perovskite sub-team talking about it, but we can buy it's called ethylene vinyl acetate. It's basically just a little thin film that you put over the perovskite, and so if the company doesn't provide it, we can always just buy our own and find a way to put it on the perovskite.
Now, I would caution that these sort of modifications and how the perovskite crystals are implemented can mitigates or impact some of the prior research done to them.
True.
Or the data. If you're changing the characteristics of the cell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think maybe the thing is you'll have to wait and talk to whoever is providing the cells, where they come from. And they should have some recommendations on that.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep it as close to how it was tested for getting up to a TRL level of 5 as possible. When you start changing things, you have to ask, does this change the characteristics that we're comparing to?
Right.
That might also influence if you can get them for free from a company. Because if you end up modifying their product, they might not want to do that because it won't actually demonstrate their product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to fly something that you're going to break and tell everyone else it doesn't work.
Right, but I mean, if the company's starting to provide a product for these kinds of applications, I think it should be expected that they're going to have to sit for a while in a clean room. So there should at least be some ideas, I believe, when you talk to them.
They could even have new things that they're looking to test to solve this very problem, but you just have to ask and find out.
Yeah, so next on the matrix, let's see. MJ, what do you think we should do next?
So that was all of the things that we had kind of marked to cover. I was hoping to open it up to the Big Red Sack kids or the other AXB members to ask any questions to our review panel, or
vice versa.
I did find the document I was referencing before for risk tracking, and I can briefly show that on my screen here.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
Okay, let me pull that up. Should only take a moment to talk through. Okay, can you see that? So this is just, a formalized way to start talking about these risks, defining them. What is it? What is the fact? What is the concern? And what is the consequence? Just state it in plain English. Then context of it. Just the info, background, what do you need to know to fully understand it? What are the relevant related circumstances and contributing factors and related issues? Then you'd be tracking the trend on, your mitigation approach. So, we've just now identified them. So the first thing would probably be identify it, then, any actions you've taken to do this mitigation and how that is impacting your chances of it occurring and your consequences. So then you have just where it lies on the matrix here, and some clear definition of where things are in minimal to major. So that would help formalize as people interpret these risks and their chances as well as their consequences. So if you have multiple people going over them, you can all agree on what they are. And in this document specifically, this is from Talisman. We were going over different risks that we had identified, and I think this document right now just is not updated with additional information, but it gives you an idea of what we were looking at. So each one of these is a different risk and how we use this chart. So I'll send that to you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody can ask. Sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just curious. Anybody can answer this, but how long do we think the perovskites will be on the shelf before they get sent up into space?
It'll be at least 90 days.
Okay.
That's the minimum.
Right. Do you know what at most it could be? I guess there's pandemic, so that would probably mess it up. But
Basically, like the range would be from when we get the cells to when we send it to the clean room. So it'll be 90 days plus whenever the company sends like our final cells to us.
Could you explain why? I mean, this is an issue, I guess. What the cells don't do well in atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the main two problems are oxygen and moisture. So obviously in space it's not going to be a big issue, but here on Earth, the moisture is a big problem because it creates hydrides and dihydrides, is the way the Germany team explained it. So a little bit of moisture starts creating like basically leakages of water in the cell, and then those are fine for a little bit. But then if you get enough water in there and it starts forming dihydrides, then it like the charges can't flow well. And oh yeah, Matt said there's plenty of atomic oxygen in low Earth orbit. That's also true. So it's the clean room and also a little bit in orbit. We need to protect the cells so they don't degrade because they're very unstable.
Okay.
Part of the data tracking then is, reporting your experiment results. You need to then record and report the conditions that your cells were exposed to even pre-launch, since that is a variable in their performance.
Yeah.
And you might have to establish, requirements for protecting them, mitigating this. That is a risk. You can start talking about what you're going to be doing to mitigate it. One of the things is tracking it in general is one way to mitigate its impact on your data collection. And yeah, defining what you need might be important here.
Yeah. I know also one way we might mitigate is like trying to get as low of humidity in all the rooms we're working with the cells in. Like, I don't know how much control we have over the clean room, but maybe that's something we can manipulate slightly.
This clean room that you're going to be working in or sending the satellite to, what's the deal with that? Is this something that you have to figure out? Are you sending it to your launch provider? How is that working?
Yeah, I believe it's a clean room provided by our launch provider.
Gotcha. So do you know if you're going to need a clean room facility to be able to build your satellite with the perovskites?
None that's required, but depending on probably the temperament whatever of the cells that we get, we'll probably have to, or we'll try to set, like John said, whatever room we're working in to the kind of the optimal conditions. But yeah,
definitely look into that. That was something that my team was looking at when we were building ours, and getting access to or otherwise making yourself a clean room is can be challenging. And it's really important to know what the requirements are going to be, not just necessarily from like NASA requirements or launch provider, but what does your system need to be able to have to be built successfully and to make it a mission? And how do you ensure that your facility meets that requirement? So not things you need to know right now, but things to consider.
Certainly. That's good input.
I mean, also when you guys get to the point of launching, I don't think it's crazy to put some, to tell who you're handing this off to that these need to be kept in a certain way, like humidity control, or maybe even keeping it inside of like an airtight container isn't ridiculous stipulation for whoever you're handing this off to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, we shouldn't need to control the conditions too much if we have encapsulation. Because based on what we found so far, that encapsulation is pretty effective.
Okay. Right. Exactly. Just whenever you do get there, I mean, it's okay to have some rules when you're handing it off to whoever you're giving it to tell them that they need to handle it a certain way.
Okay.
Absolutely agree. Just make sure you start those conversations early.
Right.
Things need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
Oh, no, I assume we're probably going to say the same thing. You can go.
We've been talking to NanoRacks just kind of about their clean room conditions and any sort of basically input that we can give them. Otherwise, working with the Florida team, Kevin, who's the main guy who's like heading that up, suggested trying to talk to some of the astronauts on the International Space Station and basically just be like, hey, if you could, do this thing to, our CubeSat, particularly what he suggested was vacuum sealing it in a bag full of nitrogen, basically just popping the bag before they launch it out. So yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah. Are there any other questions that like Big Red Sat team or the any of the EXP members have for our mentors?
I'm sorry, before that, apologies to interrupt, but just to note on your slide package here for talking about the perovskites, it wasn't clear to me that there was some of these big concerns about the conditions that the perovskites need to be in. I'm just now kind of combing a little more fine tooth, using a fine tooth comb over your slides, and it's just maybe one bullet on slide 40 and a little bit of mentions on your risk management. But you have a lot of slides discussing the benefits here. I guess it'd be good to point out when you have like your perovskites versus normal solar cells. Yes, it's good to make sure you point out the benefits of them, but maybe some of the risks too. Because it wasn't clear to me that this was that big of a concern with how long they last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being somebody who's not, very well versed in solar cell technology, it was very easy for me to miss it.
We'll add that.
So do any Big Red Satters have any questions? Your silence is a no.
I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'd definitely love to hear from the Big Red Satters.
Yeah, or even to know what their concerns are and, what's exciting you about this. What are you concerned about? What do you want to know more about? How can we help?
Robert, you're not usually shy. Why don't you go ahead and speak up a little bit?
What are you working on specifically? How about that?
From what I did specifically on the, I guess the PDR is I worked on the perovskite slides.
Okay, so you're working on the solar
I've
cell.
been- Yeah, I've been working a lot on researching the perovskites.
Great. Have you run into any like challenges or problems, or I guess what's something that you're working through now on them?
Well, one of the things that I've been looking at is like on Safari, I've been looking at all the newest news articles on them as they've been coming out to see if there's anything new. And like one of the things about it is that another thing that affects them negatively is if there's too much of a low light level on the perovskites, it makes them decay some. So it makes them decay like that. So I think people in Australia found out that if you focus enough light onto the perovskites, it prevents them from decaying.
Interesting. So is that going to be a concern when you're in periods of darkness in orbit, that your perovskites are going to decay?
I mean, probably, but that would be some of the things I would get from testing it, because until there's a way to get the light focused on there easily, you can't really do much about it. So it'd just be see what the results would be. So that'd be another thing we get from testing.
Gotcha.
So that might also be for the 90 days before it gets, when it's sitting in the clean room, whether they turn the lights off in the clean room might be an issue.
Oh, yeah.
You might want to say, you know, in addition to putting it in a nitrogen-filled bag or something of that sort, you might have to build some sort of light box for it where, you know, this needs to be plugged in and it has to have its own keep alive or maintaining system that goes with it. Its own storage box with light.
Do you know how much time it took to be in darkness for when it started decaying? Are we talking about order of days or hours or years, or what's the scale here?
I don't really think like that in the articles I found, they haven't not really mentioned that too much, but like I think the longest time the perovskites have survived without starting to decay is like 430-ish days without any decay. I'm not 100% sure what they did for that, but they had it survive for 430 days without any decay.
Okay, that's promising.
Yeah.
Knowing what that rate would be and the conditions that you need to avoid would certainly be something to track. And you're getting this from a news article?
That one, the 430 days, I don't exactly remember where that came from, but yeah, it probably did come from one of the many news articles I looked from. It should have.
Okay.
Somebody else could have also found it and brought it up to me. So.
Gotcha.
I have.
Yeah, be sure to keep track of where you're getting that information from.
Yeah.
One thing I might want to see is, you know, if there are any articles from, say, a conference or a journal that have been discussing these, and someone who is sharing their data, and not just quoting values, I think would be very helpful as well. I know you guys have references. I did not go through those in detail yet, though, so it might be a good thing, you know, just to know what your sources are and the detail that your sources are going to.
Yeah.
I see. Oh,
He was a student of the week last week for the city, one of the students of the week.
oh, fantastic.
Congratulations.
Congrats. What are you doing next week? Keep it up.
Elsa asked a question in the chat. I'll read it out if that's okay. Is it too risky to use deployable solar cells, or is the extra surface area we would get worth the risk of deploying them?
It is just, I was starting to type an answer back to that. I would just, when these kind of things come up, make sure, the way to answer them is, does it fit our mission requirements? What are we trying to do and develop the test? Is it going to fit that need that addresses a concern, or make sure that your test will be successful? And you want to keep things as simple as possible, and you don't want to add complications. So if deployment doesn't directly help you with answering some of your key success criteria, then it's not going to be worth adding to it, because there's just going to be another system that will have whole nother risk matrix to it. And so I would probably caution you against doing that if it is possible.
I'll second that. I also have to jump off, but I think it's really important to understand if it's part of your success criteria and understand the complexity it would add if it does fit within that envelope, right? Everything that you're going to do, you're going to have to test, and testing a deployable on Earth can be a challenging feat. So not that it can't be done, it absolutely can. It adds more on top of what you're already doing. But you guys are doing awesome. It's impressive how far you've come, and I'm sorry I have to jump off now, but just send me a note if you need anything.
Absolutely.
Good seeing you. Take care.
Yeah, so just a little bit more on the deployable thing. I think like Andrew Hardy looked into a little bit, like one possible deployable system, but that was kind of like a umbrella kind of folding out thing. And I think what we decided after looking at all of that was that it's just too high of a risk, because it would either like break or it would not deploy right, and then that could tank our entire mission.
Have you taken a look at the numbers and determined how much power you're going to need, and if using the non-deployable non-deployable solar cells is enough?
Yeah, we have done that briefly. I don't think we have a table we can cite, but we crunched some numbers, and I think we kind of looked at that and said, we're not doing incredibly intense power hungry things on this CubeSat, or at least for how some CubeSats can be, and that it wasn't really needed. It's just mostly adding complexity.
Okay, and that's good. This is about the stage where you can do that back of the envelope calculation and say, this is roughly what we're going to need. We're not going to need to worry about the deployable stuff. That's exactly what you want to do, is just say, this is what we want.
Yeah. Elsa, I think you also worked on this too, right? Elsa, did you find out anything about if the perovskites don't work, if the silicon cells that we have on the sides will be enough just to carry our power capacity? I don't know how much we looked into that. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I might want to ask is, what is the distribution of your perovskite versus your state-of-the-art solar cells? Where are they going to be located? Are they going to be located on different faces of the CubeSat?
I think what we've been looking at is having them on most of the sides Yeah, like the picture. So like
Okay.
we can have data on the ones like facing the sun and the ones that are not facing the sun at a time. So you can see how efficient both are, because the perovskite solar cells, they can collect power with indirect sunlight.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. It looks like you are planning on having them co-located.
Mhm.
So right next to each other is exactly how I would recommend it.
Awesome.
That'd be four from the picture. That'd be 4 panels total, 2 of each on per side.
Yeah, although that is available to change. Like if the companies we're working with, like make smaller or larger cells, that's just like the simplest we could find, because we want to have big enough cells that we don't have a lot of complicated readout equipment. But we also don't want to have like just, one of each where the angle could be weird, and they could, like, we want to have enough distribution across the face.
I guess there's in mind you guys don't have any attitude control stuff, I guess. Is that a thought or something yet?
What'd you say?
Like attitude control, or like being able to control the orientation with, like, I think really common for CubeSats like this, or like doing reaction wheels. There's like modules just off the shelf.
We've looked into that, and so far the ones that we've given the most serious consideration are, I do not know what they're called, but where they use the Earth's magnetic field to rotate.
Magnetic
Yes, exactly. So we've looked into that, but I don't know if we've fully chosen a system yet.
I guess I was just wondering if you guys are planning on doing attitude control of some sort, or if you're gonna allow it to just tumble or do whatever it's gonna do.
Well, so the magnetic torque thing would allow it basically just to have one axis that it's spinning on, so it's controlled in that way. But then what we were looking at is just having some sort of like sun sensor or something so that can tell like which face is roughly facing the sun, and then that way we can use that as a way to interpret the data that we're getting from the cells.
Okay, good.
So you guys know you will for sure need to have attitude control of your CubeSat. You can't just let it tumble.
Yeah, we'll definitely need a way to control it, or not
And
not
then-
control it, but keep it oriented.
Okay, and the magnetic one, is that an active control system, or is that passive that you can just have these? I seem to remember discussion of this maybe with you guys or in a past, but like a really long rods that kind of align. Can't remember who. Maybe it was a different team.
I did stuff with magnetic hysteresis rods.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that was the internship. Is that all a passive system?
What was that?
Is that a passive system?
It is passive.
Okay.
It's very slow, so it takes a talking period of maybe, I think I'm trying to vaguely remember, like months for it to fully stabilize. And it's just a little bit harder, I guess, of what to implement. They're kind of complicated, I guess, but it's not impossible. I would strongly more caution on stuff that's gotten more heritage. I don't think magnetic key struts have as much heritage as doing something more active with like reaction wheels or something else.
Is the magnetic hysteresis rods, is that what you guys were looking at when you're talking about magnetic?
Well, so the fast bus to near space launch, which is like, pretty much the semi-built CubeSat, they have several options that come like pre-built into that CubeSat. I know one of the options that we have a quote for right now is just a strong electromagnet that will keep us parallel but around parallel to the Earth's magnetic field, and then flip at the poles. But I think additionally, the reason why we especially wanted to have the perovskite cells and the silicon cells directly, next to each other on the same faces, no matter which way it is facing, we're able to use the comparison between the silicon cells that have that known standard value to directly compare the efficiency of the perovskite cells.
Yeah, that's kind of my question for you. If you needed the attitude control in the first place is if you have them on the same face and you have it in the pattern that you show here in your slides, if it's tumbling, then at least the perovskite and the normal the silicon cells all have the same light exposure. I didn't know if maybe it needs to have a time duration. It has to sit there and be exposed to the light for a certain amount of time for you to get a good reading from it, and that would dictate if you need attitude control or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think like having a little bit of attitude control would simplify the data that we get, because like if we know that it's only spinning on one axis, then the fluctuations are going to be a little bit more regular than if it's just tumbling.
Yeah, but that adds another system, right? You're going to have another other thing you have to balance and keep control of, and if these CubeSats, if they come to you with a out of the box attitude control system, and the supplier of it says, yeah, that'll work and that's all you need to have, and you guys can just fill in the rest, that's one thing. But if you guys have to build, you have to take a attitude control system and do something with it, you have to make something else in house. That's going to be a big system. Another complication will be pretty tough to tackle, I think.
I would only recommend doing something like that where you're getting it off the shelf, like part of your fast bus system. That's an add-on. I would agree. Don't make your own. Don't make. I guess that's what I was trying to warn against doing hysteresis rods, is that they were very much something that, was a lot more uncertain on how well it performs, and having the correct size and make sure they're mounted and oriented properly to get the right reactions that you want. So if that's what you guys are looking to, maybe not. But if it's something that's, already proven, already used on other small or other CubeSats, like, go for it.
You guys want to be as much a plug and play as possible.
Right. The only thing that should be the unknown is what you're being tested. That should be the only thing that's not plug and play, is what you guys are testing.
Definitely agree. Try to keep your variables down to a minimum, and cost will also start to play a factor, because you'll notice that some things are way more expensive than others. And if you can go without the control system and just analyze your data that way without introducing the complexity or the cost and having to get parts and things in, that's also a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to cut it off in about 3-ish minutes, probably at 1:45, because we do have to talk to the kids about some other stuff. And we wanted to give you, all of the mentors, the opportunity to bounce before that happens. So is there any final thoughts, last questions from anyone?
I don't think so. I think everybody's kind of summed it up, just making sure that the scope of the project is still just kind of kept, and that you're not just spreading yourself too thin, trying to give yourself extra responsibilities for something that would be nice but maybe isn't required. So I'd say just making sure to know what the target is and kind of keep your eyes on the prize in that aspect.
Focus on your requirements. If it doesn't help with your requirements, you don't need it.
Mm-hmm. But if you guys have like questions about if something is a requirement or not, obviously probably all of us mentors would be available to answer questions for you guys. So
yeah, it's not always straightforward to establish what your requirements are.
It's really easy to see scope creep and to see, you want to do all the cool things, and to have to narrow it down is definitely challenging. So nice job keeping it in line with what your perovskites, what you're going for. That's awesome. Keep going. You guys are doing a great job. Keep working hard. This is very challenging, but persistence will pay off.
Thank you.
Definitely.
I would also just love to see roles and responsibilities listed for the students.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we kind of forgot about that. We had an org chart that we were working on last night too.
Okay. Yeah. Just to know who owns what. Yeah, we saw a little bit about from that talking to the students, but having that in the charts would be fantastic.
Yeah. Is that something that you want to see like right now, or?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I think you guys have a really cool project. Just wanted to add that I think you guys have a lot of good information here. It's obvious to me that you guys have done a lot of work and figuring out the background here of what you need and the importance of what you're going to do. I think you guys have a good slide package. Something that I've kind of harped on to all the teams that I've ever worked with is just make sure you kind of, as you're doing these presentations and these reviews, they kind of think of it a little bit as you're telling a story. You know, you come out with the big picture view of, you know, what's the big need, the motivation for your work. Then you say, okay, we're going to address this piece here. And then you kind of funnel in all the details from there, but trying to tell a story, big picture, and then kind of funnel down to all your details. And just try to communicate that with your presentations. I think a lot of the questions that we had, especially early in today's discussion, you guys have that information. I think ordering it so it kind of flows and making sure it's communicated to your reviewers is all you really need to do. But you guys have a good project.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, huge thank you to all of the mentors and for everything that you've given us. You guys have been tremendous, just answering emails and coming to these panels and everything like that. So yeah, just thank you so much. And then I think if nobody else has anything, you guys are free to leave. Enjoy the rest of your days. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right. Yep.
Thank
Just
you.
want
Good
to
luck
say
with all the
really
work, guys.
Great work, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So before we jump into, I guess, what we were going to next, does anybody have anything that they want to say about the review?
I think we're in a good spot based on like the feedback that we got, because it's all things we can fix. I mean, it seemed like most of their comments were less about adding information and more about just how we present information, which was good.
And I think we had a lot of the information when we presented, but you know, we had planned to kind of talk around points at least. You all did a great job talking around points at the PDR, and if we just had the little bit of talking around it, it would have made it a lot easier for them to go through.
Yeah. We want to thank all of you guys for just not only the work that you've put into this project, but also being very patient with us. Getting things to you guys almost at the last minute, just being the nature of busy college students. Unfortunately, sometimes it do be like that.
Yeah.
So, I've been informed that you guys already covered all of the lead roles and stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions about joining the Remind or the application process? Or I know I wasn't there, so I don't want to repeat too much.
I want to just jump in. So I've started pulling the proposal together, and we may be asking you guys for both some input and also your references. So we may be reaching out to you. This next week is our primary week to get it all pulled together. It doesn't go into the following week, but I have to be running drafts through the grants office, and so I've been asking some questions and stuff. Some things that, you know, I'll be pulling things out of the PDR, so it may be where I need to know where a certain diagram came from, so I can make sure that we reference it correctly, that type of thing. The other thing that I'm trying to get a response to is that there's some document that they said everybody who we list in the PDR has to sign. And I have gone back to the grants office going, okay, we didn't have to do this when we did our other NASA grant. And then since we have students, but the parents have to sign it. But if we have, if I do have to have you guys or your parents sign it for you, we'll need a quick response just to make sure that we don't have to take your name off of the proposal in order to get it through the grant system. So if we do send out a request like that, whatever you can do to turn that around quickly, and hopefully we'll be able to get them to back off on some of that. So, but you may be getting some pings, and they may be pretty quick questions, you know, just where we want to make sure we get it right. And so there may not be a lot of nicety beforehand, and please understand, we're not trying to be rude or short. We're just like, okay, I need this. All right, can we get this answer? Just so we can do it efficiently.
Yeah.
Erin, do you have the reviewer sign as well?
Sorry?
You need signatures from the reviewers as well?
You know, I probably need to ask about that. It feels to me more like that would be the team, and I didn't even think to ask because then it seemed more like they were saying anyone who was on the team, but I'll ask that question because
I think it's going to be tough to get signatures from the Florida group.
Right, exactly. So I hadn't even thought about the reviewers. I was thinking it was more any names we put in of people who are actually working on the project. So that's a good question. I'll add one more question to my list. I already told them you'll be getting pinged from me. Yeah, and our grants office, because our team is working through a grants office, Florida and North Carolina aren't. We may be held to a higher standard or have more I's to dot and T's to cross that in the format that we use. So if you hear talking with those teams and their approach is a little bit different, that's why, part of why.
And I don't want to add another homework assignment to you guys because I don't know what homework assignments you have, but if you want to just off the top of your head, think of all the risks, and why don't we just gather a list of the risks? I really liked Matt's risk assessment chart, and if we can compile something like that for the proposal, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And we may already have it in some of our notes, so.
And then so for kind of what Karen said, we're trying to find a way to effectively communicate with everyone. And Slack has been kind of hit or miss. So we're trying Remind is going to be our next thing. Joel sent it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to share my screen here. This is also on Slack. This PDF is. And so if you haven't already, please join this because that's what we'll try to use for team-wide announcements. And the Trello page as well will be for like tasks and stuff like that. And we're going to get a calendar up there about kind of what we expect after the proposal is done and in terms of what you guys are going to be learning throughout this course project. Yeah, did you guys talk about the syllabus earlier?
No, we did not talk about the syllabus.
Okay. So, am I good to stop sharing this? Does everybody, all the kids, do you have it? Thumbs up? Yes? Two thumbs up? Okay. Alrighty. And then so for the syllabus, she looks a little ugly, but that's okay. So we kind of have, oh, one thing we wanted to ask you all about as well is that there are 2 Saturdays the 26th, and then the 2nd of January. We anticipate not many people being able to attend these meetings. Do we want to hold meetings at all? What's everyone's thoughts on that? While I'm playing this up.
Well, I think what we talked about a couple days ago, if we do have a meeting or don't have a meeting, we'll probably put out some videos about, the high altitude balloon project, which we plan on, talking in a little bit, like in 2 weeks after we submit the proposal and have a little bit more free time, putting together a little bit of the introduction to that, so then you guys can start forming, 2 to 3 person teams and all of that. But I know we talked a little bit about that at the beginning as well.
So this is kind of our tentative syllabus for the rest of, I think we made it out to the rest of what our spring semester is-ish. And so this is today. And then, so for next week will be kind of the conclusion of all the leadership stuff. And then after the proposal, which will be turned in the 16th, we'll start working on all of the HABs stuff. So like Joel just said, forming teams, kind of what that all entails, what we expect you guys to make, work days and some of that. Is there anything that you don't see on this list that you are really hoping that we'll be able to learn about or anything like that?
Just for fun, you might want to add that I believe April 2nd is when they're supposed to announce on the proposal applications.
Yeah, we technically that's probably true, but based on when the request for proposal was supposed to be announced and then when it actually was, we're anticipating hearing back anywhere from I think April 2nd to maybe August.
USIP was similar, but that's the soonest. I'm pretty sure that's the soonest we'll hear back.
Yeah.
Is there anyone, do these deadlines seem reasonable to all of the Big Rat Tech kids doing Python and all that kind of stuff? I'm seeing some nods, thumbs up, nice, nice. Okie dokie, sounds good. And then I guess one last thing that I wanted to mention while I have everybody here is I'm currently working on the website for the Big Red Satellite team. And as a part of that, I wanted to make it as inclusive as possible. So including audio of all of the text that we have on there. Is there anyone that would be interested in recording audio for the website?
Yeah, I would. Sorry, I never texted you, like I never messaged you back. I forgot.
That's okay. So we have lots of stuff. Elsa, perfect, yeah. Anyone who wants to is absolutely welcome. Or if once all the media releases get signed, doing stuff with the social media accounts, doing that kind of stuff. If there's anyone interested in media or that type of production, I would be happy to work with you guys. That's kind of my jam. So if you haven't followed the social accounts, check them out. They're pretty decent, if I do say so myself. Yeah. Is there anything else? We're just like just on time. Is there anything else to add?
I guess just, did we talk about the surveys or what we need to do? The words. Did we talk about what people need to fill out for the different officer roles?
Oh, I thought you guys covered that.
Yeah, at the beginning of the
Oh,
meeting.
Okay.
Before we end, I know we talked about it earlier, but I know Caleb and Casey Meyer, we're still waiting on your image release. If you could get that to us as soon as you can. And I believe Tegan as well.
Mhm.
I think she might have hopped off.
I'll send it to you after the meeting.
That
Okay,
sounds good.
awesome.
Thank you very much.
It's I believe Sally sent an email to all the parents. So if
They were
you
direct message the link as well.
okay, you prod them.
Except for the people I don't have parent emails for. So for those of you who are from Lincoln Lutheran, I think I don't have your parent emails. I do have Robert's.
All right. Is there anything else? Otherwise, y'all are free to go.
I have a question.
Yeah, for sure.
About the parent email things. Do we just send you your parents' email like on Zoom or Slack?
Yeah, if you want to type it in the chat, if you have it offhand, that would be great. Otherwise, you can send it in Slack, or I don't know if when they submit the media release, their email is included.
The media release is a form they have to sign.
Okay.
Isn't it?
They sign it, but I don't have their email.
Okay.
So who should I sign it to? One of the mentors or?
Yeah, if you want to send it to me,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Okay.
So anything else before we wrap things up? No. All right.
Oh no, I just had a question for MJ and Joel, but it can wait, I guess.
Yep. All right. Well, we will see you all next week then. Don't forget to fill out the Big Red Sat Leads application.
When is that due, Joel?
That's due Sunday night. We want to have it by.
Yep.
Tomorrow night.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not too long.
Very short.
Yes. We will see you all later.
Hi guys, have a good day.
Bye. Have a good day.
Do.
Good, MJ?
Yeah.
So what time did you say?
Hey.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm okay. Let's see. Can someone check and make sure all the other than Sally and Karen, if they're still on, if there's no students on?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, we're good.
Hey, listen, I wanted to let you, Sally, you're still on?
Yes,
I
I'm-
haven't had a chance to contact you directly.
I'm here.
Good morning. You know what? You guys have known that my health hasn't been the best, and I felt it was really important to share with those I work with closely, and you all I'm working with closely. So I wanted you guys to know before anything got out, excuse me, that MJ knows I've been spending the past week here at Mayo Clinic looking for some answers as to why I'm using a walker and why is it tough to talk. Excuse me. And I just wanted you guys to know that even though they have given me a diagnosis, that I'm really committed to this project. I'm really committed to see you successful and hopefully into your careers. This week I've been diagnosed as having ALS, probably in the average stage. So no one really knows what that means. It is somewhat early, not completely early, but I have a sense of urgency and more of a passion to make sure you guys are provided for, that you're successful, and that I do what I can within the time that I have to make sure that you get the most out of what I know and what I can do for you. So I wanted you to know that it's not something that is going to have an immediate impact, but it's something certainly that you will see me progressively talking slower. You guys have to remind me that I'm not talking loud enough or enunciating words, but I am still very committed to this project and to all of you. So I wanted to hear it from me and do it in person and not send a bunch of emails out. I thought that was pretty rude to do that. And if you guys got any questions at all, feel free to ask me. It's been, I got the diagnosis late on Thursday, so it's been, sort of a whirlwind trying to get things organized and talk to friends and family and get through it. So that doesn't mean Caleb and Casey need to be showing any slack.